Donald Trump has a plan for healthcare in America. And, this is where I feel like he could have been pushed just a little bit more by Savannah Guthrie. I mean, there was enough enough was communicated that the administration is pursuing the end of Obamacare. And I think, fortunately for Democrats, the race is not in a month or two, because I think the whole pre-existing conditions thing, the Republicans have finally figured out a way of dealing with that. And, that being the surrogate for the entire Obamacare, the expansion of Medicaid, the whole patient protection rights. But here is Trump answering a question about health care.
With pre-existing conditions, and I can't say that more strongly, but we've been able to bring healthcare costs way down. Now, I took over Obamacare, got rid of the individual mandate, made it good, managed it much better. Remember, they had the $5 billion website disaster and all of the problems they had. The problem with Obamacare, it's not good. We'd like to terminate it, and we want a much less expensive healthcare that's a much better healthcare, and that's where we're aiming. And if we can do that, and we have a very good chance of doing it, but we've also brought down the price of Obamacare. Problem with Obamacare, it basically is never going to be great. And I want to give great health care.
Mr. President, I got to follow
up very much
on the pre-existing conditions. This is such a big issue for voters.
It is a big issue for me, too.
In point of fact, your administration.
And she goes on to say, in point of fact, you're suing right now. And of course, the fact is, just saying we want better and less expensive healthcare, that's not a plan.
Right. That's what he's been able to get away with. That's what used car salesmen, and no offense to used car salesmen, right? But that's what that kind of trope, they're able to sell you anything. And Donald Trump has been able to get away with that type of reasoning or lack of reasoning, this kind of argument for the longest time, because, I don't know how much his supporters actually care that they have had 4 years to give us that healthcare plan and they haven't given us anything. And so I think it's kind of ironic that they're making all these promises in the ninth hour when they had 2 years when they had the House of Representatives, the Senate and the White House, and they had the ability to give us that healthcare plan then, and they haven't done it.
Healthcare seems to be the thing that the Democrats are running on. Again, it was very effective in 2018. They opened up the Amy Coney Barrett hearings talking about the ACA. This general, the specifics of the ACA, I think, again, we talk about, necessary but inadequate or insufficient. That is a great I think, description of the Obamacare, and in many, in at least in the context of making the product decent. On the cost side, I don't think it's really done much, to be honest with you, unless you're eligible for Medicaid, in which case that has been very successful. I think in terms of expansion, hopefully a couple more states will pick it up as well. But give me a sense. I mean, I know you're a former Georgian. You had spent at least a couple of years there. Georgia now has just moved into the sort of lightly shaded blue column, as it were, which is pretty shocking. And Donald Trump is headed there, I think, this weekend for a rally. Give me a sense of, and I know you haven't been there in some time, but in Georgia, like, how does the healthcare play? Like when you got Ossoff and you've got Warnock, and they're talking, they're running these two races. Georgia has two Senate races because of for a whole myriad of reasons, like a special election. They held it off. So Loeffler. How does that play to people there? Just the idea of healthcare, just the healthcare anxiety. Yeah.
When I was there, there are plenty of people, not oddly enough, I'm sorry, it's the exact opposite. It's the same phenomenon that you see across the country, that a lot of people simply never thought Obamacare was the Affordable Care Act because of, obvious political reasons and bad branding. I think we have to lay some of that at the Obama administration. But when they actually start realizing that there are some key benefits that they actually benefited from directly. We saw that. We saw that in Georgia. I actually have a friend who's still doing some work down there with Black male voters, and they see that very expressly, right? There's one of the reasons Georgia is starting to turn blue is because there's a lot of groundwork that's being done in two specific categories, informing people about the move that the Republicans are making on the Affordable Care Act. First of all, letting them know that Affordable Care Act is Obamacare, and then pointing out how they have been beneficiaries of the Affordable Care Act and Obamacare. You would be surprised how many years has Obamacare been around, and they did not realize that the reason that they can keep their 26-year-old on their insurance, the reason that they can keep their child who had pre-existing conditions on their insurance was because of the Affordable Care Act and Obamacare. So there's just a really tremendous dearth of information. And of course, that's intentional, right? That's been the strategy. And what they've been counting on, they being the Republicans, has been, especially in Georgia, has been to appeal to the pure hatred of Obama. And that hatred kind of blinded a lot of people to the fact that, oh, you're really getting ready to shoot yourself in the foot with the second term of this Republican Party.
It's funny because, and I've said this many times, and I can't even remember what the second half of the official name of the Affordable Care Act was the ACAPP. I think it was Patients Protection.
Yes. Something along those lines.
And I have always said that it was the patient protection side that actually worked. Mm-hmm. I mean, if you put aside the expansion of Medicaid, which I think, only for the sake of this argument, I think it's actually on the balance, probably the best part of the act was the expansion of Medicaid. But in terms of everyone else in the country, it was the PPACA, I guess, Patient Protection Affordable Care Act, right, was the actual name of the bill. And they focused on the affordable care part, which was ludicrous because, first off, the affordable care part only applied to either the 10 million people who got Medicaid or the 10 million people who bought it on exchanges. The word affordable was never going to implicate anybody else in the entire country. The PP part of it, the patient protection, that touched everyone. Right. That is the part of the bill where, like you say, if you're 26 years old, you're on your parents' thing. It ends rescission. There's no lifetime limits. There's no year-long limits. There's no pre-existing conditions. There are basic aspects of health insurance that you must have to have it considered health insurance, like, right, a mammogram or colonoscopy, that type of thing. And so that was the part that was really, I think, undersold. And that's why I think there was such disillusion with it, because everybody's going around going like, my health insurance is not affordable. It's not, the rate, the cost curve may have bent in a certain way, but it's still not affordable. That, and everybody's walking around going like it did not deliver, and they don't make the connection between those things.
Yeah, it's got to be, if we get the luxury of going back to a time when we could actually sit down and retrospect, look at the mistakes of a previous administration, right? Because that's a luxury at this point. If we don't give it to Donald Trump, we're not going to have that luxury. But if we ever get that luxury again, we got to sit down and have some courses on the absolute failure in the marketing of the Patient Protection Act, because I think you did more service for the Patients Protection and Affordable Care Act in this last 5 minutes than they did in the entirety of its existence.
Yeah, it is unfortunate. And apparently the unsubsidized ACA exchange population declined by 45% over the past 4 years. Now, a lot of that could have been like no pressure from a mandate, or it could have just been they got priced out, and it's hard to assess that, but it's the wrong direction. Right. And so something has to change during the Biden administration that is going to address this. And that is going to be one of those. There's going to be a bunch of jump balls, right, during this administration if it happens. Now, again, you and I sit here, we can't really know what's happening. We look at the polls, but the big question is, did Donald Trump inspire? And we've seen some data indicating that there's been an increase in registration among non-college educated white people. For the most part, those tend to be Trump voters. And so you and I don't know. I guess the only thing that we can tell people is, go out there, tell your friends, tell your family, tell 5 people, text a bunch of people, particularly in those swing states, go out, vote early if you can, but vote. Ben Dixon of the Benjamin Dixon Show. People can find your show where?
Right here on YouTube and everywhere you're streaming for the most part. And they can get the podcast anywhere you find podcasts.
All right, Ben Dixon, appreciate your time. Benjamin Dixon.
Thanks for having me, man.
Folks, check
always a
that
pleasure.
out.